Okay, now I'm going to show you guys how to do some basic editing in Adobe Premiere Pro. In the last lesson, I showed you how to import, set up a project and import files. So now we're going to take a look at how we can use those files. Let's start with audio since that's the top. Right now I have just some assets from an old wedding video. So here's like an MP3 of Canon in D. So as you can see, when I drag this on to this timeline, I can only put it in one of the 3 audio channels. It's not letting me drag it to the video channels. Obviously, because it's an audio file and there's only an audio track in it. Just for a little perspective, if I bring in a video file, you can see that it has a audio and a video element to it. And when I do that with an image, just the opposite. Just an image element, no audio. So once it's in there, I can bring in either side and kind of adjust to what part of the audio I want to look at. And if I need to look in more detail, let's zoom in a bit here. Oops, I already have something in here. Let's get rid of that. You can see that I can see the waveform in there too, so I can see where some of that stuff lines up. So that is basics of audio. What I can also do is bring it here into the source window, and then I can say I just say I want to trim out this like dead space in the beginning. So I can set the in point there, and then the out point is going to be pretty much at the end because that's when it fades out. So then I can just set that as the out, and then I can just grab that. Oops, sorry. Drag the audio down here. Let's go with the beginning of the file here. So you can either drag the audio or the video independently. So now just the portion that I edited, I clipped from this audio file will be in my timeline window. Let's put it there for... Actually, let's just move it because we're going to put some other stuff in there for now. So images are probably the easiest because when you drag that in, it doesn't matter the length because it's just a still image. So that can be as long as you want it to be. And you can also add motion to it from here. So let's say you want to animate the scale or the position or both. So let's say I want to zoom in on this flower a little bit, right? Let's see, we're at, let's just do 3 seconds. And I'm just going to drag it. And I want to animate the position, right? So I'm just going to add a keyframe. Sorry, showing keyframes. Zoom in a little bit. More. There we go. So I'm going to add a keyframe here in the beginning. So once I have the clip highlighted, I just click that and you see a little dot appears. And I'm going to add one back here and add another one. So you can't really see what's going on there. So let's open up, go to Window, Effect Controls. So let's find those keyframes. Drop down that one. There's that one. Where's the other one? There you are. Let's move it in so we can see it a little bit better. So those are my 2 keyframes. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, think of the old phrase getting from point A to point B. Point A and point B are what would be keyframes, right? That's where you want to start and where you want to end. The computer, in this case Premiere, will calculate how whatever asset you're using gets from point A to point B, right? So point A could be a position, it could be rotation, it could be scale, It could be animating certain effects. In this case, we're probably going to be sticking more to rotation, scale, and position. In this example, we're going to be looking at position and scale. So I'm just going to add, by clicking that little stopwatch, I'm going to add keyframes. I can also add one over here. Basically, when you turn the little stopwatch icon on, when you toggle that, it's basically saying you're going to animate that aspect of it. So if you need to add additional keyframes, you just click on this little dot right here. So now, as you can see, nothing's moving because this is where I want the image to end. But let's say I want to start on that flower itself. So I'm gonna just grab that. I just want to zoom in a little bit. It doesn't need to be that much. Let's say 3. I'm going to move this over a little bit. Right, and that's while I have the timeline indicator over these first 2 keyframes. So I changed the value of those 2, but I haven't changed the value of these. So now, when I hit play, it's going to slowly animate. This needs to be probably a little bit more dramatic than that. So now, if I hit the space bar, oops. It looks like I have some keyframes over here somewhere. Let's just put those right there. So there you go. So basically starts there, and let's say I wanted to, say I did this way, but I actually want it the other way. I could just grab these keyframes and move them around any way I'd like to. Like that. That's a little bit fast, but you can move them apart to make them slower. So that's like one way you can use images. The other thing we should look at, let's do this. If you ever want to just get rid of the keyframes, you can just toggle the stopwatch and it'll get rid of all the keyframes. So now we're just back to where we were in the beginning, and I'm going to close the effects control and go back to my regular timeline. So another thing you can do is do transitions between images. So I'm going to add, let's move this one to the top one. And so I have that, and I have, this is a bit large. So let's go to the scale. So back to effect controls. And then I'm just going to make that the frame. Now, to transition between the two, you're just going to right click on the right edge, and you can say some options here, but I'm just going to say apply default transitions, which is just going to be a cross dissolve. You can see when that dissolve begins, and you need to have, see, as you can see, it starts to dissolve here, but nothing actually appears till this wedding ring image appears. So you need to have it aligned so that when it starts to dissolve, there's something behind it, right? So you can actually change the length of that dissolve. And there you have a cross dissolve. And you can do that with images to video, video to images, or images to images, video to video, whichever way you'd like to. That's what you can do with images. Let's get rid of those and look at video for a quick sec. Videos is going to be very similar to what we do with audio up here, so I'm going to drag it up here. Because with audio, you could actually just, if the audio is just where you want it, you can just drag it right into the timeline. But with video, I have some options. So obviously it has a image component and a audio component. Let's say I didn't want the background audio in here because I wanted to bring in this audio later. I could do one of two things. I could just toggle this track output on audio, and that'll just turn off the audio for it, but it'll turn it off for that entire row. So a better way to do that would just be to right click on it and say unlink, Because before you could actually move, let's go back up there for a second. When I move one, they all move together, you see? But if I right click and say unlink, I can use them independently. Like I could, if I just wanted the audio from one track, I could use it. If I just wanted the video from one track, which is what we want, so I'm just going to select the audio and hit delete. So that's one way you can use it. In this case, I just drug the file right to the timeline. But if I just want to use a specific part of the audio or the video, actually let's look at this one. This is a better example, because this one actually has some dead air at the beginning. So I'm going to make that the in point, because before it is just a black screen, and then it ends right about there. So I'm going to add the out point right there. So then from there I can just grab it and drag it down here, and it'll just use that clip, right? And then from here, that's when I can right click, go to unlink, and get rid of the video or the audio if I don't need it. But that's kind of the basic ways you can use images, video, and audio. This also works with Photoshop and Illustrator documents if you want to create your titles in there. But we will be covering the use of the title designer in Premiere in a later lesson.